Character designs. I was on the fence on what I wanted to do for this video, so I put out a good old-fashioned poll to you folks for what I should do, and you asked for another character design. So here. If you've watched any of my videos, you know this is what I like to do. I mean, it's so fun. How could I not? And I've tossed around doing a more professional walkthrough for how I go about it when I actually try to be professional, but I've been busy and I didn't really have the time for that, so I'm just going to draw and talk about things I consider when designing a character. Because I'm lazy. So for today, I'm designing this new character I've been slowly developing. Her name is Billy, and I honestly have no idea where she came from. I just started drawing her in math class one day, and boom, terrifying bunny waitress. And I had no other choice but to draw more of her. So yeah. And again, I have no idea where my inspiration for this came from. I just wanted to draw something creepy, so I drew this. So, going into this character design, I already had a pretty clear idea. I know I've said this before, but it's good to try out a number of ideas before settling on some things. And I did most of that off camera when I first drew her. If I gave her more work, would I come up with something better? Probably. But I ain't got no time for that, and I like her as she is. So yeah. So when I go into a character design like this, I usually already have a pretty clear idea of what I want. Maybe not all the way, but I have inspirations and ideas. I wanted to keep her design fairly simple, so I narrowed down the details to what was most crucial when I was doing this. I debated on her hair the most, though. From some angles it looked good, but from others it was weird, and I really struggled. But that leads me into big tip number 1. When drawing characters like this, or anything that has a slightly more complex look, like her horrifying bunny mask, just draw it a bunch. Doodle them, give yourself a time limit, and draw it as fast as you can. Your brain will automatically single out the lines and aspects that are the most important, and as your hand draws it more, it gets to know the shapes better and how the pieces fit together, and just all around looks better. And it gives it a more clear design and recognizable. When I first started making this drawing here, I didn't really have that familiarity yet. And again, off camera, I just drew her mask a handful of times from different perspectives, and it was like unlocking a whole new level in my brain. If you haven't done this before, I highly recommend you to. There are a ton of tips out there for making better character designs, and some work for certain people and some don't. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, especially since I am not a professional. Professionalism be damned. This is just one thing I found really helps. It can seem kind of tedious at first, just drawing it over and over, but I enjoy sketching and doodling, and even if it looks like hot garbage, it helps more than you think. Big tip number 2. Okay, so you've probably heard this one a million times if you've watched any video like this. Story. Now, for some characters, story is less of a thing, and they're just there for aesthetic reasons. And there is nothing wrong with having those characters. It is a blast, because sometimes it is just fun to draw a character and they don't need a full backstory. But having a story can influence the design in a beneficial way, but is not required. You hear me? So, for story, I like to take into account who this character is when they actually have a story and a plot with other characters, because that will influence their design a ton. For Billy here, she lives in a new world and a story that's been in the works that's kind of like a fantasy and monster thing meets modern, today's world. Kind of like Onward or The Owl House. She is a human, which by a lot of people in certain places in this world is considered superior. Her story is really rough, but I'm thinking a few generations back in her family, they were cursed by a beast, probably for good reason, honestly, to be indentured to them as servants. But when Billy was born, times were a bit more modern, so she works at a beast-exclusive diner and wears the mask to appear a bit more monstrous and fit in, I guess. And I also think like something happened to her face because of the curse or an unrelated event that has something to do with beasts and monsters and all that. But in her free time, her and her girlfriend from the casino not far away hunt beasts because she doesn't like them very much. Which is understandable given her circumstances, but she's also not the best person because of that. And so, I had a bit to work with. She had a profession, a waitress, a backstory, and a hobby. So her outfit was very straightforward, and her mask a notable feature that will make her stand out. I wanted to do another drawing of her in her hunting outfit, but I ran out of time, so I'll just do that another time. Probably not recorded, because that's me. So when designing your characters, I recommend at least having some idea where they come from, because those things can influence how they dress and look and interact with other characters. Big tip number 3, colors. Colors can really make or break a design. They make your characters more iconic and recognizable while also telling you a lot about said character. Usually, this pink color is not one I gravitate towards. It makes me want to scoop out my eyeballs with a rusty spoon. But it felt right for her design. It gives her this like falsely innocent look, and yes, it gives her a more girly appearance. And I generally despise gender coding colors, but colors are one of the first things that read, and colors have history, even if you don't like that history. But that's what I wanted for her. I wanted her to give off like a falsely innocent look, but it be very clear that she is by no means innocent and sweet. Nerd alert, but I recommend doing research on colors. I find this really fascinating, but you don't need to use it at all. I mean, you don't need to do anything. I'm just talking here. You can ignore me. Shh. So you don't need to use this at all, but it's good to have it in the back of your mind as something to consider when picking a palette for your design. And try different colors out. Again, with this character, I kind of lucked into getting pretty damn close to how I wanted it on the first try. But usually with designs, I do a bunch of different thumbnails and attempts to get the colors to work right, and how I want them like looking together just by moving them around from different spots in the design. It changes, it does a ton. You'd be so surprised. And I suggest keeping your colors to a select handful. I used to do designs that had way too many colors that were just like minor shade differences, and it took forever. It honestly didn't look as good. For a simple, solid design, keep your color choices minimal. It's a huge game changer. Even if it's like a very intricate design, keeping a set color palette will like change your life. So for her, I did like a simple pink, brown, dark brown, white, and a little bit of gray just to break up the white spots and just look a bit more dimensional, because it was pretty minimal. And yeah, it just makes it so much stronger. You would be shocked. Big tip number 4. Now, this is just a small thing. I swore I recorded drawing this, but no, of course I didn't. If your character is in a cast of other characters, draw them together, or at least line them up to see what needs work. I designed a girlfriend and then did some drawings with them together to get an idea of how they look together. But when making a cast, they tend to look different. And if you put at least a little bit of thought into how they look side by side, they'll just look better together. Again, these are all suggestions, but altering body types to stand out more, proportions and shape language, colors, and features will help a ton, just making them look unique, but also like fit together. This is something I've personally struggled with a lot, to make my characters contrast, but also look like they belong together, if that makes any sense. If you're struggling, I suggest looking at casts from animated shows or comics you like, and just see how they look when they're put side by side. What colors did the artist use? What shapes? What's the height difference? If you just blocked out their silhouette, could you tell who it is? And then just take those traits and translate them into your own characters. It helps a ton. Well, yeah, I hope this helped. I haven't really made a video like this before, and again, I am not a professional. I am just some guy in high school who draws an ungodly amount and watches way too much YouTube and have a lot more to learn. But I've also learned a lot and found it works for me, so I thought I'd pass the knowledge along and hope it could help you at least a little with your own designs. So, you know, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I legitimately love reading them, and it feels nice. It feels nice for people to appreciate my work, but you know, I don't know where I was going with that. New videos come weekly-ish. You may leave now. Bye.